The defence I'm going to put in court today, if I get the chance, the pre-hearing didn't give me the impression that the magistrates were strongly disposed to my arguments, but anyway, the arguments I'm going to put are that quite regardless of the legal technicalities of what went on, we were collectively acting to try to prevent a far greater crime, or in fact a multitude of far greater crimes that were being committed. This is a defence that has been used successfully in various places in the past, and seems to me an entirely reasonable argument and absolutely true in the circumstances. To argue about how many days notice were given for a demonstration when you're talking about the mass murder of children is absurd pedantry, and we know of course that it is not that, because they have the discretion as to whether to apply such laws. So it was a decision to try to intimidate us and to prevent us from protesting. So that's my fundamental defence that I'm going to argue today. And as Gareth said, this occurs in a context in which it's clear that there is a drive by the police to try to limit and hinder protest. First of all, they created a scare around the G20 protest by saying there was going to be dreadful violence. They didn't, of course, say that the people who were going to cause the violence were themselves, but they said there was going to be terrible violence, thus setting up a situation where some violence was almost inevitable, and then proceeded to wade in against the public, including to the point of actually killing somebody, which they then, as with the Jean-Charles de Menezes case, tried to get out of by telling the most absurd lies and cover-up. But in these days, of course, where you know, everybody has a camera in their mobile phone and so on, they've been found out, and comprehensively so. And so it doesn't. So all arguments about the right to protest, I think, have to be seen in this context, and it's very, very important that we defend that right. And this case, obviously, is a very minor matter compared with either what's happened to the G20 or Palestine itself. But in that context, I think definitely assumes a certain general significance. So again, I really welcome your support today. Thank you very much indeed.
Excuse me, I've been taken to prison 3 times through protesting.
I'm really sorry.
I've now got documentary evidence. The police and the courts here are corrupt. Documentary evidence, the courts are corrupt. I'll give you this.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone, as John's going in, I know there are a number of people going into the court with him. I think in terms of what we do now, I know a number of people are staying around. I think that a couple of more people that would like to say a few words. So if anyone wants to indicate to me that they'd like to do so, give us a shout. Until then, I'd ask Pat.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming down today and showing their support to John and defending our right to protest, because we have to remember that actually the demonstration that some of us went on, where John was arrested, was a completely peaceful demonstration. We had a rally in Guildhall Square and then marched up to Tesco, and it was absolutely peaceful, and we were actually getting sort of broad sympathy from the people in the town. And it was only towards the end of the demonstration that the police decided that that was the time they were going to arrest John. Their reason they gave was that John didn't give 6 days notice for the march, which has been pointed out several times is, well, you know, Israel didn't really give 6 days notice that they were going to bomb, you know, thousands of innocent civilians in Gaza. I think it shows that our sort of the constant erosion of our civil liberties, especially with, you know, I think you can completely equate the war on terror with the war on civil liberties and the crackdowns. And like Gareth said, I was actually on the G20 demonstrations for a couple of days when it was the other week, and the police did stoke it up. The police told us there was going to be lots of violence, and to their dues, the police were right. There was violence, except it wasn't the protesters that were causing the violence. It was the police themselves. They failed to mention that before. You know, it was all those nasty people in hoods, whereas actually the police, which has been clearly shown on video, that battening people and leading to one man's death, and also slapping a girl in the face, which incidentally I was actually next to the girl that was slapped in the face. It was all over the news, and it was just disgusting. And the worst thing about it but not to be unexpected, is that the police straight away tried to cover everything up, said nothing happened. You know, there was a few scuffles, but it's because protesters were bottling the police, and this has actually turned out to be complete rubbish. Obviously, through stuff like YouTube videos and people's mobile phones, we've actually seen that the police have lied and lied again, much like the John Charles de Menezes case, where they said that he was running with wires out of his pockets and vaulted the ticket barrier at the tube. These are all confirmed to be lies that they made up to cover their own mistakes. And I think, again, you know, they've been proved to lie about the demonstrations. And I think it's very important that we come out and we defend our right to protest. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming today.
Thank you, Paddy. Richard has said that he wants to say a few words. Again, if anybody else worth saying straight away, that despite all the provocation, despite all the words in the newspaper about the violence, about how protesters have got a bad reputation, about how nobody wants to protest anymore, that on a Friday morning, when most people should be at work, or if you're a student, probably in bed, that so many people have turned out in the cause of defending the democratic right to protest. Nothing gives me more heart than seeing people here today, and I think that the lesson that we take back is that if you want to minimise violence, if you want protests to be truly effective, then the more people the better. The larger the amount of people, the better. The more people you have, the louder we shout. The more people there are, the less the police and the government feel that they can intimidate us into silence.